It is a beautiful afternoon to you, and many thanks for joining us in our program, African Discourse on Independent Television. My name is Evan Sunokuge. We say Baraka de Salah to our Muslim brothers and sisters. Happy Eid al-Fitr. And of course, you are enjoying your holiday. It is the first day of the holiday that the federal government has declared today and of course tomorrow. Well, let me say a very big thank you to my colleague, Philip Omogyukmon, for holding this program for the past 4 weeks. I mean, I was on vacation, so the program had to go. So we are back now. And of course, we ensure that we'll let you see the program every Monday at about this time on this television. Today on the program, we are going to be looking at what seems to be that China, trying to maintain some diplomatic balance with the way, it's, going with nations of the world. And of course, we're going to be betting interest in the DRC. That's the Democratic Republic of Congo that has been at, war for quite some time now. And of course, we understand that very recently, that the United Nations, the Security Council in the United Nations had to call China to order. I mean, China being a member of the Security Council in the United Nations, with the United Nations, the UN, the Security Council had to call China to order that, hey, you have to be very careful with the way you come in between Rwanda and the DRC. And of course, when we talk about Rwanda, Rwanda is really not being fingered in the conflicts, in the DRC. But the M23, which a lot of persons, believe that it is a kind of a force that is put together by the Rwandan government to ensure that they bet their interest in the DRC. So today, what we're going to be looking at is to look at the diplomatic balance that China is, trying to maintain in wars, in nations, and we're going to be taking a cue from the DRC situation. Today, we are so privileged to have Nowita Igbotako as our guest, and of course, a foremost author and a Syria author, and of course, an international conflict resolution expert. Nowita Igbotako, you're welcome to this program.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
I say happy holiday to you.
Yeah, I wish you the same. Bakari Sola to our viewers. It's a wonderful thing celebrating one of the greatest masters that has come in the name of religion.
Okay. All right, so we're also expecting Derek Uwango, when he comes in, he's going to be joining us via Zoom so that he can be on the program as it goes on. All right, so Nowita, now when we talk about, China trying to maintain diplomatic balance, with DRC and the Republic of Rwanda, what exactly are we looking at?
China, Republic of China is a dominant factor, force, in that sphere of conflicts. That conflict situation, China has invested so much. It has so much interest in the Democratic Republic of Congo, for instance. China is into mining. When we talk about mining, Chinese companies are neck deep into mining activities, in China. And mostly they are into cobalt, copper. These are principal minerals that we use in the electric car business. Apart from that, China is neck deep, it's into infrastructural development in Democratic Republic of Congo. China is everywhere. China is into strategic activities inside Democratic Republic of Congo. And viewers will not forget easily that before China, coming to that zone, we've had the Americans, who came in after, the horrors that became that country in the name of Zaire. In 1961, we know what happened to that country, where Patrice Mulumba, the first independent prime minister, was not allowed to rule. He was killed in the name of imperialism. So Americans and other interests, they came in. So, and given those horror, I see that as horror because the American imperialism did not go down well with the Democratic Republic of Congo. So China now has opportunity. They came in the name of trying to better the lot of Democratic Republic of Congo. But what we are seeing in China is nothing different from what the Western imperialism did, what the Americans did. So China are there, they are into mining, they are into infrastructural development, they are building roads, they are doing that. As we speak, the Democratic Republic of Democratic Republic of Congo government is heavily indebted to China. And China is training Democratic Republic of Congo troops. They're into military agreement. They harm the Democratic Republic of Congo. They train the officers. They supply equipment. They are everywhere. For me, without China, I don't see where the current government, being headed by Felix Tshisekedi, can go. So China is everywhere. And when you see China getting involved, overwhelmingly in such a country, and they are after their national interests. And we hear of labor, labor issues, human rights issues, even inside China, with the incursion of Chinese into China, where cheap labor and labor issues, and the human rights issues. So the imperialism, the Chinese imperialism, that is, that is having its way in the Democratic Republic of Congo, for me, it's not different from what we had now when the Americans were there, using Mobutu and the rest.
Yeah, when you say the Chinese imperialism,
imperialism.
But some, thoughts would say that China has been neutral. I mean, most especially with what has been going on between the DRC and Rwanda. Talking about the Hutsi, conflicts in DRC, the Tutsi and all that, an expansion of what happened in Rwanda some years ago, now in the DRC. Some people say that China has been neutral.
Well, they could be neutral. You may not see them on the battlefield. You're talking of a country that's army, arms, supplying arms, training officers and men.
For the DRC?
DRC, what do you expect? Spiritually, physically, they are involved. But the only thing, you will not see them when combat, combat positions to fight on behalf of the Democratic Republic of Congo. So what are we saying? A country that is so overwhelmingly involved in such a country, you are in the military, you are in the economy, you are in the mining, you are everywhere. So it's imperialism. Because I say imperialism because we have human rights issues now, even in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Chinese, they don't do things that regard for the indigent people, for indigenous people in China. People have shown their resentment for Chinese incursion in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So what I mean is China has replaced what we used to know as American imperialism, American new colonial interests. Now, China has become a dominant colonial power, not only in the Democratic Republic of Congo, but in other countries in Africa, but we're talking about the Democratic Republic of Congo now. So China is a factor. China is having the best of times.
In the DRC?
In the DRC. Okay. And they say whether they are being diplomatic, they are involved. They are specialists. They are experts, military experts, economy experts. They are involved. So how can you call it to be neutral?
Because what we are looking at, they may be involved in the economy of the DRC, but for the fact that in politics, in the politics of DRC, you can't really think at China. And that seems to be what analysts say when they try to praise China, that, hey, China has been very neutral, in the way they deal with nations. They don't go into the politics of nations, but rather they tend to attack more the economy of these nations.
Yeah, you are correct. Unlike the American imperialism.
That are more...
imperialism, they are interested in who becomes the president.
The president, yeah.
And if the presidency or those are the corridors of power are not done to do that, the American imperialism, they will uproot whoever that is there. It's very crude. But that is not what the Chinese are doing. So they seem to be looking, and one of the guys there is their friend. They do have a problem. They don't, interfere openly. What you call international espionage. which Americans are into, the Russians are into, the dominant power, they're into espionage.
The Chinese, they don't do that.
The Chinese are into espionage.
Really?
Why can you say they're not into that? Without espionage. Let me educate you.
No, when we say espionage now, you know, because America, we know what America is interested. America wants to take over the politics of your nation. And of course, that's why they are so much into this espionage that we're talking about. But in China, espionage for what now?
See. Spying. To use the word so that viewers can understand.
Yes, spying.
Spying.
Yeah.
It's a big business in the international arena. Because through spying, through espionage, you know what you are not supposed to know.
You know the political arrangement.
Beyond political, military secret, industrial secret, and several other things. How did China, quickly, let me just educate the viewers, how did China become a dominant power?
Economically?
Economically and militarily. China stole secrets, industrial, military secret, atomic energy, and what have you. They send their spies into Washington, into Europe. I'm privy to that because I'm an expert in international politics.
Yeah, but let us.
So I don't want people to say that.
Worked for China over
That's
time.
how China became developed.
Their population may have also worked for them for time. I mean, over time.
Yes, they are one of the biggest population in the whole world.
Yeah.
And it's the cheap labor and what have you.
Yeah.
So, but how do nations develop? I know, that's what I'm saying. When China came in 1949, America had already gone forward. America had already developed atomic bomb. They had dropped atomic bomb in Hiroshima, you know, in 1945. China came in 1949. So China was nowhere in terms of superpower rivalry. But China had to use their espionage, because that word the superpowers use. Those nations.
They spy.
They spy. They steal your industrial complex. They come and fake them in their country and become. So that does not deviate from what we are discussing. But one of the matter is that China is after its economic interest, national interest. That's, you know, I've just told viewers that there are issues of human rights, labor issues, even in the Democratic Republic of Congo as we speak. Chinese, they are helping the Democratic Republic of Congo. They are not interested in the people, the Congolese. They are after their national interest. How much are we going to take? As I said, they are heavily involved in the mining industry.
What about the infrastructural development that they have in the
They are into building of roads.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what do we have?
Those projects, are they not people oriented?
But at the end of the day, the country is even indebted.
To the Chinese?
To the Chinese. Well, that's when the issue of balance actually comes in. Leadership, I don't know what Felix Tshisekedi is doing. If you look at the budget, it's 2019. You know, this brings us to the issue of African leaders, to the issue of visionary leaders. How can you be a president of a country, an external power like China is taking over everywhere? Human rights issues, labor issues, that to show that the indigenous people are not being taken care of. And the government of the day is looking the other side. What China is having its way.
Okay. So, all right, so we'll take a short pause.
That's a part of the matter.
Let's take a short pause, and for our viewers out there, don't forget that the program is still African Discourse on independent television. And we're looking at the conflicts in the DRC, and also looking at how the Chinese have been able to maintain some form of neutrality in warring nations of the world. And we started with the DRC, so we'll take a short pause now. Now, when we return, we're going to be looking at Rwanda. The Chinese are also in Rwanda too. And from what we hear, we also understand that the Chinese is also not interfering in what is going on in Rwanda. And we're still expecting Derek Wango to join us on this program this afternoon. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. All right, thank you one more time. The program is still right here on television, independent television in Benin City. And we are looking at the conflict in the DRC and also looking at the balancing of diplomatic tests, diplomatic powers, even with the Chinese governments in these warring nations in Africa. And of course, like what I said, that we're starting with the DRC. Now, I know Butako is still right here and is still our guest. Now, let's take further into the Rwandan situation. Now, for Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda now has been praised by the Chinese government, Xi Jinping, most especially the way he's been going with them and all that. Now, very recently, we saw the United Nations Security Council calling China to order that there's no way you can be backing the Rwandan M23 in what is going on in the DRC, because the M23 of Rwanda has been fingered, you know, so maybe to be largely responsible for the conflicts, for the way the conflict has deteriorated in DRC. So the United Nations Security Council, you know, called China to order that, hey, you have to let us see your position. I mean, China is a member of the United Nations Security Council. So in all this now, because what people have seen over time before this time now is that they praise the Chinese government that, hey, they like the way they've been trying to maintain neutrality. You know, but for the fact that the United Nations Security Council now has called China to order, that, hey, we know what you are doing, we know what you are trying to get. So how do you look at China in all this?
You know, I said it not too long here, that the issue of neutrality is on paper.
It's a ruse.
It's a ruse. In international politics, you must have your interest.
All right. Okay. Okay.
You must have your interest.
Okay. All right. All right. I think we have Derek Uhuango now join us via Zoom. Derek, nice to have you on the program. Derek, good afternoon.
Well, China is a lesser of two evils. If you recall, DRC, formerly Congo, have been in the hands of the Europeans for a very long time, starting from King Leopold of Belgium, who reigned hell and Bristol on the citizens of Congo for 40 years. After 40 years, he handed over power to the government of his country, the Belgian government, who also colonized Congo for another 30 years. 30 years of serious brutality. So when finally Congo, you know, had gained their independence, the independence wasn't really an independence per se, but they were made to sign a lot of treaties that will further enslave the people of Congo, so that all the mineral wealth of the Congolese people will go directly to the Belgian government. So finally, when they had their first government in place, and their first prime minister was in the person of Patrice Lumumba, in his speech, after his swearing in his speech, he made it very clear that the mineral wealth of the Congolese people will be controlled by the Congolese. And that was the day he signed his own death warrant. He was arrested, tortured, killed, and dismembered, to the extent that his remains were, you know, dissolved in a chemical substance. Just to give an example to other African leaders who wants to be freedom fighter. So since then, the country has been plunged into a state of, if you allow me to say, dismal. But finally, China, who have always had a neutrality posture in the scheme of things, as long as the global politics is concerned, they have always maintained neutrality, and they do everything possible not to engage, you know, foot on the ground when it comes to trying to resolve issues of very strong diplomatic interest. But They have been very systematic in employing that Sun Tzu philosophy. They've been very systematic. They've been very careful in handling issues. But they've been very successful in doing this. Because one of the Sun Tzu philosophy is to avoid a conflict, you must be seen to be prepared for war. Currently, the world superpowers have fifth generation of jets, fighters, fifth generation. But China have just released the sixth generation of jet fighters. They have also, developed the fastest, aircraft in the world. So these are ways to tell the world that they are ready for war, but they don't want to fight. The likes of America and Europe know that China is not a pushover in terms of warfare, even though they've not really fought with any nation, but they've invested so much resources in preparing themselves for war. That is a very, very systematic way. He who is strong is avoided when it comes to conflict. And China are proving over and over again that they are strong. And in terms of China's interest in the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, China had made it very clear that they are a major player in the mining of the Democratic Republic of Congo's mineral wealth. Take, for example, the cobalt, which is a major mineral resources in terms of production of electric vehicles and what have you. China maintains 80% of the entire cobalt reserve of DRC. In 2021, the Chinese foreign minister, in the name of Wang Qi, signed a memorandum of understanding with the DRC minister, on how they will partner in exploring their mineral wealth. But one good thing about China is that when I said they are a better of two evils, China will come to the table with you. They will not muscle you into surrendering your mineral wealth. They will invest their resources in finding this mineral wealth. They will even also invest their resources in upgrading a mine that has been abandoned by the Europeans. Because it gets to a point, a mine will no longer be seen as viable to the Europeans. But Chinese have the resources, to continue to mine and abandon, a mine that have been abandoned by the Europeans. They have the resources to continue to mine it. And they give a very favorable, terms and condition for mining the DRC mineral wealth, which is more favorable than the Europeans. And they don't move to destabilize a nation because they want to get cheap mineral resources from that nation. No, they do everything possible to come to the table with you, to give you a fair deal, a better deal. The Chinese government gives a better deal than the European government in terms of mining mineral resources all over the world. So the African leaders.
All right, so I think, yeah. All right, so Derek, we're going to pause you. Derek, you just hang out there. We'll pause you and we'll quickly take a short break. And when we return, we are going to continue with that point that Derek was trying to establish there. Don't forget the program is still African Discourse on independent television. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned. The next 1 or 2 minutes so that you finally anchor your points, and then we'll come to Nwuta Igbotako. You may continue now, Derek. Derek?
Yes, I was saying that, DROC have been under a very tight grip of the Europeans, Belgian national, who have been plundering the nation, stealing their mineral resources. But the coming of the Chinese have created some kind of competition in the areas of mineral exploration in DRC, in the sense that China gives a better deal to most nations of Africa. They give a better package than Europeans. Look at all the years that the Europeans have been to pretend over the affairs of Africans, but there have been nothing to show for it. Take, for example, the destabilization in the Democratic Republic of Congo have come a long way. Patrice Lumumba was assassinated in the year 1961. In the year 2001, Laurent Kabila was also assassinated. Laurent Kabila was the president, while Patrice Lumumba was the prime minister in his time. And one of the major reasons why I feel that Patrice Lumumba was assassinated was because
All right, I think we continue with Derek when we reestablish that. Now, back to live asset now. We're trying to come to Rwanda now, and trying to see the position of Rwanda with the M23, and of course the warning from the United Nations Security Council to China, being a member of the UN Security Council, that hey, you cannot maintain two positions now. You have to take a stand. Because kudos to the Security Council at the UN, because they really want the conflicts in DRC to stop. You pick it up from there.
Well, just as I was saying before Derek came on board, international arena, there's nothing like neutrality. A nation has its national interests, its objectives for doing what they do, economic interests. So, for instance, you have the Chinese, harming the country, training the military personnel, giving the armament and the rest, training them. They are into the economic sphere. They are everywhere. And they have interest. They have invested billions of yen, billions, to that country. You want to tell me that country will be neutral? That country Chinese will not sit down, the authorities in Benji will sit down and watch Felix Tshisekedi, for instance, overthrown?
So are we saying that China is serving two masters here?
Well, because, for example...
Because like what you rightly said, that the M23, we understand that China has been funding M23 in terms of giving military wares and all that. That is in Rwanda now. And of course, it is this same China that has, its establishments, its investments in the DRC. So is China serving two masters in this case?
Well, I've just told you, these people, they don't care about Africans. That's the sad reality. They don't care about you, they don't care about me. They don't care about the Democratic Republic of Congo. They don't care about even Paul Kagame. They are interested about their interest. They say arms administration. China is a superpower. China is a superpower. They have magnificent armament industry. Just as Derek said, they produce sixth-generation jets, one of the fastest jets in the world. They are perpetually prepared for war. And who is going to buy these armaments? Do you know what? Billions of yen, of dollars, to go into armament industry. It's not a child's play. So they must sell their weaponry. So talking about two masters, they don't care. That is sad reality. It's economic interest. I'm going to disagree with Derry, for instance, that China is a lesser evil. Which is lesser evil? China has penetrated so much into the Democratic Republic that we have human rights issues.
Yeah, but he was trying to look at it from the standpoint that...
That maybe they're begging...
Yeah, when you compare China with other European countries in Africa, China seems to be more
better
accepted.
evil.
Yeah.
Lesser evil. Well, but they've not changed the reality in Africa. The people are still... the country is still underdeveloped. Despite the resources, the minerals that is endowed in the Democratic Republic, the country is one of the poorest in the world. The people are being pauperized. Things are not working for the country. As I talk, and I'm saying the fact, there are labor issues. The activists in that country, they are already talking about labor issues, human rights issues. The Chinese companies that are operating in the Democratic Republic, they are running roughshod across the country.
Okay.
Disregarding human rights, disregarding basic rights, and President Tshisekedi is not doing anything. So, at the end of the day, what are we looking at?
Okay. All right. So, Derek, let me bring you in again. Now, Derek, help us make sense of this whole thing, because for most analysts, it is rather confusing to them. Even while we try to praise the Chinese government for trying to maintain some neutrality and some diplomatic balance here. But what we are saying is that the Chinese government has been accused of selling military wear to M23 in Rwanda. And of course, also, we understand that the M23 now has been responsible for the wanton destruction of facilities in the DRC. When we talk about facilities now, we're talking about road, railway, and all that. And these are Chinese investments in the DRC. So is China a nation that is destroying its own self, or destroying its own interest in this case? Derek Huango.
No, not China destroying its own interest or its own infrastructure in DRC. Remember that Paul Kagame of Rwanda also have interest in DRC. He has a militia that he is sponsoring to destabilize DRC because he feels that the rebel forces of Rwanda, those who are opposing his government, flee into DRC, and the excuse is given to penetrate the Democratic Republic of Congo is that he is in search of those people who are working to topple his government. That's the excuse he has been given for a very long time now. But there are reports that he has also been involved in mining DRC's mineral resources illegally. I mean, those people that he is sponsoring. So up to Uganda also has been a major player in the destabilization of DRC. A lot of problems in the DRC are caused by people who have interest. The Europeans have interest there. China have interest there. Rwanda have interest there, Uganda have interest there. And it appears that their interest is becoming conflicting to the extent that China appears to be gaining more ground in DRC. Like I said, the cobalt mining industry, China have like 80% of mining rights of all the cobalt mining sites in DRC. And I will continue to say that China gives a better deal than Europe. I'm not saying China is a saint. And we should not also feel that the Europeans or the Chinese will help us to develop. If they help us to develop, we will have no need for them anymore. If they set up industries to refine these cobalt in DRC, we will have no need for them anymore. We will kick them out. They don't want to make a mistake of empowering Africa to the extent that Africa will no longer have the need for it. They don't want to make the mistake of empowering Africa to the extent that Africa will not be a competitor. in the global economic stage. They've made that mistake before. They made that mistake with countries like Japan, and they did not favor them. So they had the chance of crushing China when their economic and development just started about 35 years ago. But they didn't see China as a threat. But today, China is a major threat of the American and European powers. So they don't want Africa to become this same threat to them. Africa have all the mineral resources required for a nation to be a global economic power. But the only thing that we lack is the manpower and the leadership, the right quality of leadership that is required to propel this rapid growth. We don't have it. We don't have it. Somehow, the Europeans have been able to kill the spirit of an African servant leader who would have come up to say, no, enough is enough. They have made the example in the person of Muammar Gaddafi, a Pan-Africanist who was, gathering and trying to bring Africa together. He was trying to see how Africa can unite with one currency, with one economic policy, with one military policy, and what have you. But he was killed. He made a very good example of him. They have made the same example of so many people in the past. Look at Kwame Nkrumah, who was one of the first Pan-Africanists, who said Africa need to come together. He was disgraced out of power. Look at Patrice Lumumba, who said that DRC, Asadef Congo needs to come together and salvage itself from the hands of the Europeans. Look at what they did to it. So we also still need to come together and fight one just cause, which is to liberate Africa from the grip of the imperialists.
Beautiful.
China is an imperialist nation, no doubt, but they are better than the Europeans.
Yeah, you said that 1,000 times that China's interest, you prefer China's interest in Africa. You said it 1,000 times. Now, Nowita Igbutako, as we commence our descent now, let's quickly take a short break, and we'll be right back. Please stay tuned. All right, there, the program's still right here. So, Nowita Igbutako, as we commence our descent now. Now, let's stretch it further, because we are looking at the position of United Nations Security Council now, ordering China that, look, remove your hands, let me use that word now, remove your hands if there are support to give to the M23 Rwanda and all that. Now, this Security Council of the United Nations, when the war between Russia and Ukraine got to a point that the international community said that, hey, why don't you call Russia to order? We didn't see the U.S. Security Council calling Russia to order now. But is it because this is an African something?
China is a superpower.
We know.
Russia is a superpower.
It's a superpower.
So, you see, international politics is all about might.
Yeah, but the question I'm asking, why didn't the Security Council call Russia to order?
I know there are several resolutions, even at that level, that Russian veto knocked off. When Putin ran across the border and started pumping Ukraine, there are several resolutions on the floor of the United Nations. Resolutions condemning but at the end of the day, one veto for Russia will knock it off.
Everything off.
What are we talking about? So China is a superpower, and China can stand its ground anywhere. China is just being diplomatic. So
are you trying to say that China may undermine the position of
China will not listen to anybody. China will not listen to anybody. China will always deny that they are not involved in those things. That is the least they will do. We're talking about diplomatic strategies here. China will always come out, the Benji authorities will always say, no, well, we've been there, we believe in stability, we believe in neutrality, we are bringing our men to stabilize the region. They will always say something diplomatically. So for me, as I said earlier, China has an interest in that sphere.
Yeah, in Rwanda.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
They want to sell their arms and ammunition. They want to boost the economy. They don't care about the interests of Africans. They don't care about the destiny of Africans. That's the fact of the matter. We have a world that is lopsided, being controlled by strong men, by superpowers, who have veto powers. So when Derek said China is better, because China is not raw.
No, that's his own position.
But I want to say China is better.
He said he prefers China's interest in
But
Africa.
for me, I don't prefer any of them. They don't believe in the interest of Africa. For me, if a government that is visionary and missionary come to Kinshasa tomorrow, they should throw these people away. Just like what we are seeing in Burkina Faso, what we are seeing in Mali, what we are seeing in Niger. Look at the development going in those countries.
And the one of Burkina Faso also has an interest. Remember, the Russian government is also.
We will cancel him because when you say international politics, you cannot stand on one leg because they will cross that leg.
You must need the support.
You need the support. So if I'm to advise Traoré, for instance, in Burkina Faso, Traoré should be careful. But I see Traoré and co. Traoré, Mali, that guy
in Kenya.
No,
there's one other guy
Mali, Burkina Faso, and the other guy.
Yeah.
So you see, Niger.
Yeah.
Niger,
the
if I want to cancel them,
Tiashini.
Yeah, Tiashini.
Yeah.
I want to cancel them, be an international relation expert. They should not allow those people to enter their country, indiscriminately. But I like the way they are going. They are being careful. Because they cannot develop alone. They need a superpower to be by their side. It's just like when somebody wants to slap them, the superpower will appear. So we are here. That is national policy.
That is not done for nothing.
But what I'm seeing in those countries is it has shown that Africans can develop on their own. When you have a leader that has a will, political will, with vision, with mission. For me, the Chinese cannot bring El Dorado. They cannot bring Uhuru
to DRC.
They are just about economic interest. So I'll be one day in the nearest future. The Felix Tshisekedi of this world, who is president of the Democratic Republic of Congo now, should vacate the scene. That's my position.
Now,
leaders with vision, who will be taken like Patrice Lumumba. That was called Lumumba just now. Lumumba from day one in 1961. He said, Belgians, the wounds you have inflicted on my country is unpardonable. And he paid with his life.
Yeah.
They kicked this guy, I remember his name now. We know, but what could be done is for African leaders to be focused.
Okay. All right, so
to put the people first. And have mission. Okay. And try to disengage all these Western powers.
Now, Derek Owango, let's get to your response now. Now, are we looking at a situation whereby China may undermine the position of the United Nations Security Council? Is that what we're looking at? The way we've said that that the UN Security Council could not call Russia to order?
China is a very systematic country. They don't just do things anyhow. They would prefer to deny that they are not involved in any conflict, even though they might indirectly try to protect their own interests. But they will not, do it openly. Remember that Taiwan and Hong Kong are in the Chinese territory. But Taiwan is not answerable to Xi Jinping, the president of China. And they are being supported or backed by the Americans. And because of the very pragmatic posture of the Chinese leadership, they prefer to wait. They prefer not to waste resources in conflict. they will indirectly try to push some string, but we hardly engage physically. But a time will come when the Americans and the Europeans will on their own bow to China. That time is coming. Benin used to make one parable that, or Serokpa, Tokpa here, when it gets to the time that a cock will crow, it will crow eventually. Like I said, China is using the Sun Tzu philosophy. If you study that art of war, book written by Sun Tzu.
I just, as we wrap up, now, you have 30 seconds now, that America will bow to China. Donald Trump.
America is already bowing to China.
Are you sure?
Yeah, that's why Donald Trump is panicking in White House. Because you can see his aggressive policy, tariff, the trade war. It's all aim. It's fight everybody and it's fighting China. China is a superpower. China is one of the greatest economic power on net.
Okay.
It's the second largest economy in the world.
Okay.
So what are we talking? Coming to Africa. Yeah. African leaders should learn to disengage even the Chinese imperialism.
All right.
That's the way for Africa to grow.
I want to say a very big thank you, Nowutai Butako, and
you so
also
much.
to our stand. Now, Derek Ohango, may I see your face one more time? Derek, thank you so much. Derek, all right, thank you so much, Derek. Yeah, thank you so much. All right, so this is where we'll draw the curtain today on the program African Discourse on independent television. Now, one thing that stands clear is that a day will come that the African leaders, we know all these permutations, all these skirmishes and all that for power and all that, so that the African continent can be repositioned, in global politics. Because the truth of the matter is that Africa seems not to be anywhere in global politics, in international politics. I mean, we come here every time, we see how Western interest, European interest and all that, how we are being tied to the apron strings of, these superpowers. We just hope and pray that one day we will realize, and of course we will be able to stand on our own. So we'll leave the same today on the program African Discourse until same time next week. My name is Evan Sinokugi. Goodbye and God bless you.